What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the 13th edition of the Littleroot Record. I'm joined here by one of my dear friends in the VGC community, Tony T, and the T stands for Top Cut So Many Events in Regulation H. Anthony Londergan, how are you?
I'm doing great, Angelo. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. This has been something we've been talking about because of your success in Regulation H, and we just kept on kicking the can down the road, and you just kept on doing so much better at every event you went to that what was initially going to be a single tournament talk, I think this is turned more into, as I want to frame it, a rags to riches, a tragedy to triumph view of Regulation H that we're discussing at the end of the regulation. Recording this a little after Toronto Regionals just finished. Regulation's pretty much over, and it has been a roller coaster for you. But before we get into all of that, why don't you introduce yourselves to the Littleroot Record viewers, who you are, how long you've been playing Pokemon for, any other things you want to say. We're all ears.
Of course. Hello, Littleroot Records. Wow, I can't speak, dude. We're not even like 2 minutes in. This
Neither
is wonderful. Anyway, hello. My name is Anthony Londergan. I'm a bit of a VGC boomer. I'm 23, but I've been playing since I was 10. My first formal event was Secaucus 2011, probably before half of like anybody was born. I don't know. Yeah, it was a single Elim tournament. That was my very first tournament. Didn't know anybody. Went with my dad. I used to play VGC with my dad. Fun fact. Other than that, I got knocked out. But I love the game. I love the grind. I love the game. I'm based out of Mass. I have been here my entire life. The local scene is absolutely wonderful. New England. Smooches love all around.
So much love. The time of recording, if the season ended today, we would be sending 12 players of the top 75. Woo. 12. Yeah, New York, you got nothing on this.
Light work. Actually, not light work. New York has hands, do not go to their cups. Side note, one of our friends, Keon, said that New York would be free. No, do not listen to him.
Well, he's a child. He's one of the people who wasn't alive in 2011.
Exactly. Like, he was still in diapers. That's fine.
Yeah, still is.
He's fine. But yeah, it's like, man, the start to this season was so tough. And I'm honored that I have gotten the chance to sit down and talk with you about it, because this truly feels like a rags to riches story, and I have not placed this high at a regional in so gosh darn long. It has been forever. It's like it took a while.
Yeah, it did, and I think that's where we can start with everything with this story that we're telling. Let's actually go back to last year. Last year we had the 500 point threshold. And I think as many players who play this game, you went into the season saying, I want to get a Worlds invite. And sadly, you came short. Do you remember where you fell with points for last year?
Yeah, I actually, the 2023 to 2024 season was kind of rough. I had a terrible start in Pittsburgh. I think it was my worst major appearance ever. I've consistently gone either positive or neutral at an event. Which I think is like pretty decent over the course of 11 years. Pittsburgh, I went 1-6 drop, and then I drove like 12 hours home. Got home at like maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was really down after that. And even though I went to more majors, my next major appearance wasn't until San Antonio 2023, where I ran like Roaring Moon Heat Train Balance, and just went from there. It was really fun, but I didn't rack up enough points, or I didn't start finding the consistency that I would have like right now, and like gained traction and footing, and found a team that I liked up until like February. So not having a really, really good start, it really hindered me, because I didn't go to a lot of majors during the 23 and 24 season. I was in between school, like graduating college that year, as well as finding a job. The job market right now still stinks. It's horrendous, but what can you do? It's like everyone has their, like, not even excuses, but like it happens. Like, I couldn't get a job that actually paid me and allowed me to go to these regionals like I do now. But yeah, it was tough. Like, I couldn't find my footing. during this initial segment of 2023 and 2024, it really started to pick up when Reg F, I believe, started to roll around. And I was like, this gouging fire Pokemon's really cool. I really like Iron Hands. And then I accumulated like 200 something points with it. And I was like, wow, that was really fun. I really like this team, and I'm going to try and get my Worlds invite. And I was like, maybe I can do it. And then I remembered I liked Groudon, and that didn't go so well.
Gamblers Anonymous, December, January 7th, both of us were going to be going hand in hand.
I'll see you at the VA, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
The season ends, and sadly you fall short. And even with the change of the World's qualification format from the flat-out 500 points to the top 75, you said, I don't care. I think I'm good enough to do this, so I'm going to do it. And we're going to start, sadly, with Baltimore.
The worst always has to come last. You got to have best news later.
So we're just going to throw that up. I think the team name is very fitting.
Oh, yeah. Whew.
What happened?
Oh, man. I had some really unfortunate matchups in general with this team. I found my direction with this team building was, hey, I really like bulky offense with Tailwind. Let me combine that with Rain, because it was the big to-do. It didn't go well. Suffice to say, this was horrendous. This was a horrendous performance. Neutral's not bad, but it's not at all what I wanted to actually start my journey to this Worlds invite and to be a top 75 NA player. I genuinely thought I had a shot. And me taking I think it was VR. It was either the VR winning team or the Spear Pillar team that won.
It might have been Spear Pillar.
I think it was that. I could be completely wrong. If I'm butchering that, please let me know. I really like this team, and I thought I could give it a shot at Baltimore. I thought it was cool. I love Salamence, and I thought Salamence was the MVP actually for this entire regional. It saved me a bunch of sets. Unluckily, and probably more accurately enough, Rain was everywhere. And it did not help this matchup. Absolutely whatsoever. The Rain mirror stinks, and it's poopy, and no one should ever have to run a Rain mirror. But, it's even one of the rounds, I was playing and testing this team in a Limitless tournament, and I was undefeated in this Limitless tournament to begin with. And I ran into our good friend Calvin's cousin Griffin at the time. Mm-hmm. And I got bodied by Terra Ground Bolt Beam P2. Or sorry, not P2, PZ. That Pokemon gives me nightmares. It went into round 5 Swiss. I lost. I have to repair into the same player again. Lost. I was like, oh, surely I won't run into this in Baltimore. Take the, 6.5 drive to Baltimore with my girlfriend and my good friend Andrew. Playing, I'm like, I'm 4-3, I could finish. I could finish out strong, get points. 80 points is nothing to scoff at. I pair into Griffin. I sit down, and he's like, oh wow, you're gonna be really mad. Doesn't click at first. And then I see his team, I'm like, oh my god. Are you kidding me? And I put all the puzzle pieces together. I was like, this is Calvin's cousin. Calvin's cousin knows how to play this team. This team has a positive matchup into my team. I'm screwed. I took him all 3 games, but it was unwinnable. And he finished 5-3. I finished 4-4. I think the headspace that I put myself in after this tournament was absolutely one of the worst I've ever done, because I wanted to make a push. And a little more personal backstory. I lost someone near and dear to me in right after NAC happened, and that was my birthday weekend. And it went from one of the best weekends, even though I shit the bed at NAIC, to like one of the absolute worst of this entire year, or like of my adult life. And I dedicated myself like becoming better at this game and improving and trying to make this Worlds push to them, because I lost them and they're no longer with me. And it was tough, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I goobed that so hard. And obviously like a lot more mature and like depressing than that, but I have a really good support system. Like I have VGC cats, I have my friends. I think most importantly, I had Ashley, my girlfriend. She really knows how to like get me out of a funk. She was like, I'm going to be honest with you. If you want to keep making this push, and if you want to actually push, buck up or shut up. Like, get out of this funk and do better. And I think, like, the rage from, like, losing someone near and dear to you, plus, like, you know, get up, buddy. Like, it's the first regional of the year. That really, like, it helped me get back up. Like, I stood up and I gave it the good old college try. I was like, I'm going to do this again, but better. And that's what really got me more motivated to actually push myself, even like limits broken further than I've ever gone before. And that's when VGC Cats told me to work on P2 Ursaluna with our good pals June and Keon.
So for Littleroot Lessons listeners, this team comes up all the time, mostly because Anthony, June, or someone else in the group has done well with it. One of the things that is good in the building group with friends is that you have a team mom named Jess, and Jess said, Anthony, play the good team that everyone else already worked on, for the love of God. Which has pretty much been every time anyone's had an issue, Jess is like, do it. Yeah. I've talked about this team specifically a good bit, but honestly, I can only talk as like so much about it. It has, again, I'd say like the staples of our group: the AV Ensign, the Cloak Amoonguss, your bulkiest Hell P2, a cracked out Goldango spread, and some random fighting type in the 6th slot.
That's just how it is. Honestly, the Amoonguss actually was a love child between me, Keon, and June, where we all put like our ideas into this one hat, and we're like, oh hey, this benefits us a lot in all of these different ways. This team is like, it feels special to me because Porygon 2, I used to play fake PG in Sun and Moon, and like for anyone that doesn't know what the certain archetype is, it's pretty much like Porygon 2 and Gigalith with like a whole balanced core. And that was way back in like Sun and Moon, and I absolutely loved that. I adored that archetype. It allowed me to play Porygon 2 with actual partners. And it's like Porygon 2 is... I love this Pokemon. This is by far top 5 favorite Pokemon, favorite normal type of all time. This thing is a menace. Disgusting. But more so than that, not only does P2 like enable its partners because it's a Trick Room Pokemon, like its partners also enable it because like we have Redirection, we have a Fighting type, we have Goldango, we have Incin. Like it's all this balanced BS archetype. Like, I never thought I was a balanced player until I picked this team up, actually started playing with it, and I was like, wow, okay. I don't like hyper offense anymore because this is just bulky offense, which is my preferred play style, with Trick Room added. But, man, that drive down to Louisville is no joke. Again, shout out my beautiful girlfriend Ashley for doing it on her own.
Yeah, Ashley did everything. I just got the pictures of like a rotation of you, June, and was it Keon as well?
Yes.
The 3 of you. We had Passenger Princess in the backseat, which I can call her that because that's exactly what she did when we drove to and from NAIC.
Oh yeah, no.
Like I was driving Miss Daisy.
Oh, June was just asleep the whole time. I think I talked to her maybe for a solid hour when we weren't in the Waffle House at any given moment. And props to Keon. Keon stayed more awake than I did throughout the entire trip. And
Yeah.
he deserves that. He deserves that praise. But yeah, that drive was nuts. I think it was, I want to say 17 hours with all the stops that we did. Shout out Ashley. Love you. I would not be here without her driving me to this regional, and can't pay her back for it, because holy hell, did this regional really shoot. It rocketed me towards success. It was the start of.
This really kicked everything off, and a few things to go through. I think with this team specifically, we've talked a lot about it, but are there a few different, there's a few different quirks. The Jolly Assault Vest on the Incin, the Terra Electric on the Amoonguss, the Substitute on the Ursaluna. What was your favorite part of this 6 in terms of the uniqueness, the spin of an archetype that was explored at the time, but that spin that made it this group's and specifically your own? That that little thing in the back of your head that you enjoyed with it.
That's a really good question. It wasn't until after this regional that you brought up that we were us three were the only Terra flying Ursaluna in this entire tournament. And this was, ironically, the only tournament in recent history, besides Baltimore, that Clefable was actually still part of the metagame. Same with Klefki. And a 5th move on those that wasn't commonly run was Misty Terrain. And we're all like, oh, har. Freddy Five Nights, I love this bear. We're Terra flying, that's cool. We'll just avoid the CCs and all the wood hammers and all the grassy glides and stuff like that. We didn't even think of Terra flying enabling our Flame Orb in Misty Terrain. And it was such a hidden niche tech that none of us noticed it until the ride home. And that I thought was I didn't mean to, but it worked.
So that was something when we were covering the event on the podcast, that I noted the Terra flying. I'm like, oh yeah, they probably did it for that, and not me checking through.
No.
I don't know if I told you this or not. You 3 were the only 3 playing Terra flying Ursaluna that weekend.
Oh yeah. No, we had no idea. Because everyone was still Terra Ghost.
You were the only ones. Now, with the event as well, of course, this was your first... I believe it was your first top cut ever.
Yeah. It's besides seniors achievements, I don't like to count those, because that was 2016, 2015. This was technically my first Masters top cut, which felt really good. But it's I think I do want to give another shout out, kind of more so to myself. I had Terra Electric on my Baltimore team for the Rain Mirror, and we adapted it into our Amoonguss more so for the fact that we could go up against Rain, because Rain was a problem matchup. Arch getting a bunch of stamina boosts, that's not fun. No one wants that. We have Clear Smog, but okay, we can't do that unless it's a grass type. And we actually teched it for the Hurricane Electroshot double up instead of being Terra Water or Terra Fire or anything like that. So we're this gives us a lot of resistances for this specific matchup. It's we're kinda weak to flying type moves, because we have Annihilate. If Gold Terras were weak to it with that, if Amoonguss if we just don't Terra Amoonguss and we Terra Incin, we're kind of weak to that. So having that little niche out was perfect, and it felt wonderful because it actually mattered in a lot of my personal matchups. I went against Rain, I think 4-ish times during this tournament, and I Terra'd Amoonguss, as long as there wasn't a Basket Legion, I Terra'd Amoonguss a decent amount of times for it. But,
that was just something that it's one of those weird Terra types. I know when Terra was announced, everyone was like, "Oh, the Levitate, Terra Electric, no weaknesses."
Yeah, and the Electros.
And then no one actually did it.
Yeah.
And we've seen Terra Electric pop up a few times, and it specifically is for those, again, you're getting those good matchups from the flying types into the electric types. There are, as you said, a lot of flying weaknesses or potential flying weaknesses on this team. Like, yeah, if you Terra the Incin or the P2, you could have upwards of 3 flying weaknesses with only 1 real resist. So being able to add another resist to that with the Terra Electric is just a really neat twist. Personally, like, I love our group's obsession with the Cloacamungus.
Yeah. It
And
does
because
wonders.
it really does, because it has so many moves. And sure, like, you still want to protect, and if we could put a 5th move, it would be protect. But being able
Yeah.
to be, but even with the protect, just being able to say, you can't fake this out or get a free turn here. I'm going to threaten this spore. I'm going to heal. I'm going to redirect or get rid of your stat boosts. Like, it just adds so much to the team where it's always an active member, which is just a really neat twist that the 3 of you were able to put together with this team. Now, before we move on to your next event, I do have a question. What was your most memorable matchup at Louisville, or at least most memorable moment? Was it making day 2? Was it making cut? Like what was it for you?
Oh man, that's a really good question. This was one of the first tournaments in a while that I was like the top seed for, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm seeing, like I finished 7-1. My only loss in this entire matchup was to Matt Tidd, who had an amazingly like super niche team. I'm like, I don't have lines into this, so congrats on the win. Like, I do not know what to do. But I actually did end up facing Parker Simmons in Swiss round 8. I faced Parker Simmons, and it was a pretty clean victory. But like, getting to talk to Parker and getting to know them more, it was really nice because they ended up making top 4 with Exeggutor, which was awesome. And it's like getting to talk to these people with like super niche and specific Pokemon, amazing. And then I actually also made friends with Caryodontra. I believe that's how you pronounce their name. So Carrie, if you're seeing this, I'm sorry. I've seen Carrie throughout different like events. Like, I just saw them at Toronto, and I was talking with them the entire time that we were in Top Cut. But I think I want to say most memorable. I do want to add like a little tidbit in there for like the Annihilate at the end. Most memorable moment, probably making day 2 with like a pretty good record with like a lot of really good resistance on my schedule, because like my schedule was kind of cracked. Like, there were so many top threats in this schedule, it was scary. But
And that was just for Louisville.
Louisville.
We're not even going to get to the next one.
Oh yeah, Sacramento ramps up. Like,
Sacramento ramps up, and then and then it ramps up again, and we can ramp back up to Sacramento. I think one of the big things that actually, here's my first question for you. What was your decision? Because in sticking with this 6, or at least continuing with this archetype, I know a lot of players, after having success with a team, sometimes they'll be like, hey, the meta's changed, or I want to move forward with something else. How was it like going in? Like, what was really your thought process? You personally, not the group, but you personally, and I want to continue with this squad because I think it can still be good.
Throughout the changes that we made, I believe this specific event took place like a month after Louisville, and I didn't really want to commit myself to something that either A, I didn't know how to play, or B, something that changed the team entirely and like changed EV spreads, changed IVs, and pretty much changed like the fundamentals of the team. Like, even just swapping Incin for Goggles with Parting Shot, that feels like it actually would have been worse for me, just because of like different matchups that I went into, and I really didn't like that change. Like, I loved our spreads, I loved our items, I loved our IVs. It felt really good. And the only thing that I could have thought was, like, this is a core of 5 Pokemon. that I know how to play with. The sixth will always be a wild card, and it will depend on meta developments. And I believe the literal only things, the two things that changed between the month period between like Louisville and Sacramento was the IVs on the Ursaluna. It went from 1 to 5. I really wanted to use my shiny one. So that was like the difference between my team and June and Keon's team was the IVs on the Ursaluna. And that was for Louisville. And I ended up switching like to Terra Ghost so I could avoid like CC Glide, all that stuff. But we were more like weak to Gambit. But it's like the only other thing that we changed was Goldango spread, because I went to a cup and it was actually against Adrian Hurley, one of our locals, who was running Gallade. And I was noticing that my gold was just not picking up KOs with Shadow Ball. And I'm like sitting there doing the calcs on my phone after the tournament. I'm like, this is a coin flip. This is annoying and I don't like this. Let's make it more optimal. So I just swapped Gold's HP stat and special attack stat, and I was like, okay, cool. Now it's an 87.5% chance to KO. And it actually ended up mattering. But going into Sacramento, it was daunting because it was my first time in California. My good friend Sam Pletcher, the GOAT.
Yep.
Oh, I can't say enough about this guy. Welcomes me into his home. His mother, absolutely wonderful woman, so nice. Thank you so much, Miss Pletcher. It was daunting. I was like, can I keep this up? Like, I have not let up on the gas. And it worked, but I was worried going into this event because I was like, can I maintain this pressure that I'm constantly putting up on my opponents?
Yeah, because I can definitely understand that. Like, I mean, and you've gone to significantly more events than I have, and I think one of the things, like, when you have a really good result, especially like your first really good result, it's in the back of your head. It's like you have all these other results before and after, and you're like, was that top cut like a fraud? Like, I'm like, was that my peak? And it is one of that, like, almost like you get an imposter syndrome. And you clearly were able to push through that. 8-3, 48th place, another top 64 finish, which is insanely good. And just to continue just rolling points and rolling results. And like, how was it? Like, how did you really break through that thought of what if that was a fluke?
I definitely think it came down to, I think it was June and Keon. They were both like, just play the game in front of you. Like, don't think about the next match. Don't think about the match previous. When I was at Louisville, I found a good way to like decompress after matches, which is what I've been looking for years. And it was working. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just run to the bathroom, get some more water, reset, hang out, listen to some music, talk to my friends about their matches. And then that's it. Like, don't do anything extraneous. If I had a lot of really bad RNG, don't even think about it. Like, it doesn't matter now, the match is over. Like, think about how I could have won maybe if I go up against that player and cut. Other than that, it's fine. Like, don't think about it. And you're completely correct. Like, it was, going into this, it was complete imposter syndrome. I was like, what if I can't do this again? But I had to shake it off. I had no other choice. It came down to, like, you are going to do this, and if you fail, there's going to be limited time to do it again, but you can do it again.
No, that's it is important to be able to look at that and say, like, yeah, you can do it again. Like, this isn't your last chance. And especially with the way the world's qualifying format is, you can feel like you have no shot of it because it's like, oh, I lost up my chance at points. I'm going to lose my top 75 spot or whatever. And it is what you said, just taking one game at a time. And one of the things that I know a lot of listeners outside, like in between like Sacramento and Toronto, before we get to that, I know one of the things that the listeners are going to be asking for, because this is something I'm not 100%. I have a solid grasp on, if not 100% sure. Mian Shao, like that ended up being a Pokemon. So June used this 6 at LAIC with the Mian Shao. You brought it to Sacramento. You then brought this exact same 6. I believe it was this exact same 6 spreads and all to Toronto as well.
Yes.
So something that the Mian Shao did, like, earned a lot of people a lot of points, and in the grand scheme of things, the two of you were the only ones using this Pokemon this way.
Oh yeah.
What does it? First of all, what does it feel like to be Mian Shao's strongest soldier? And secondly, what does the Mian Shao do that other Pokemon tested in that spot? The Annihilate, for example, from Louisville. What does the Mian Shao do that the Annihilate doesn't?
It definitely feels weird to be like X's strongest soldier, like Mienshao, like GOAT in Toronto. Mienshao came to like very specific matchups, like Torviv Rain, I want to say, and like kind of Silva Sun that I faced in day 2. We can talk about that a little bit later. But the whole point of Mienshao was to still have like fighting stab, but also have like fake out and intimidate deterrence. June and I was over June's house in their apartment playing Mario Party one night, and I was with Chris and Masa. We were just shooting the shit. I was like, okay, I want to go home. Like, I'm tired. It was like 10:30 at night. And then June, this was like a week before she went to LAC. She's like, oh, hey, what about Mienshao? And I'm like, why? And I thought she meant like fake out, protect, wide guard, all that stuff like we saw in like a bunch of Reg G sets with Kali Shadow at the beginning. And she's like, no, like full offense Mienshao. Like it's base 125 attack. It's really fast. It outspeeds Garchomp, which gives us a decent amount of trouble. I was like, okay, like that's I can see that. I was a little doubtful at first. I will fully admit I was doubtful of Mienshao in the beginning. And then I'm like looking at it a little bit more. I'm seeing like how June's doing at LASC, and I'm like, I'm testing the team at the same time with Mienshao. The whole problem with Annihilate was it just wasn't really coming to games. Like it wasn't like a Scarf Final Gambit set that we could use to deter other Porygons from coming and like resetting Trick Room. Because at that time, in Louisville, there were other teams with like Garchomp, P2, Vivillon that were giving us some trouble because like Sleep Powder stinks. Like there were some like Swords Dance Life Orb or like 3-attack Garchomp sets that were giving us some trouble. But I'm like thinking to myself, okay, Mienshao kind of works. Like even if we lose Sash, we get rid of Garchomp. Knockoff is huge, especially for like Goldengo or any other ghost type. Ice Spinner for Psy-Spam. This was about the time when the like unethical, I want to say, 222 popped up with it like Male Indeedee this time, and Sneasler with it's either like Psychic Seed or like Focus Sash itself with like Scarf Sneasler. But it's like it feels more unethical, but like wait, Mienshao kind of stops that. And it also helps especially against Rillaboom, which is awesome. Like, I will take that. I will take any Rillaboom hate in this meta. I do not want my bear dying to a critical hit Woodhammer on Switch. Like, I need that thing alive. And I think most importantly, it does the same thing as Annihilate. Like, yeah, it gets hit and gets chipped by Fake Out, but it doesn't get intimidated. And I'm like thinking to myself more, I'm like, okay, like we can one-shot Incin given it doesn't Terra. Because not a lot of them are like impish max HP, max defense. Like nobody's doing that right now. Like it's usually Goggles.
Yeah, and people have been going very hard on the special defense, specifically to try to stop Porygon 2 from getting the download boosts. I know we've seen like a lot of players. Brady Smith has mentioned it. I believe Wolf Glick himself, in the last video he posted about, I believe it was his Louisville run, he said that he actually he did the math to be like, what is the biggest gap of special defense to defense, and then made sure that that was the gap for his Incineroar to make sure that as long as Incin was out, he always got the attack boost on download.
Yes.
So yeah, like people were definitely like running Incin as, oh, I have Intimidate, so my defense stat doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
And, yeah, I could see the thought process behind that, where like a close combat off of that very high attack stat that Mienshao has, to be able to take that out.
Exactly, and it's like Wolf made a really good point where he, like, finding that not subdivision but difference between like a special defense and defense. I wish I had that game knowledge. Like, I know that it's like it takes like the weaker defense and gives you the download boost, but I did not think of taking like the weaker defense and then adding that to our Incin or our P2. For any listeners out there, like, we're probably not using this team for the rest of this regulation. Like, it's pretty much over. We have like 14. We have 2 weeks left in the reg. Have fun. Yeah. Enjoy yourselves, please.
I was supposed to, honestly, I don't think this video. Okay, actually, this is going to be weird. So we're recording on the 17th. We usually put we put videos out on Wednesdays. Carl will not have this done for tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no.
But then next Wednesday is Christmas, and the following Wednesday is New Year's.
Oh, Happy New Year's!
So potentially Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. I don't know when Carl's going to get this out.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone's still playing like Reg H Limitless Tours, all the people like, oh, I hate Reg H, and then you go into Reg G and you're like, oh, I hate Reg G, I want to play Reg H. Have fun with this team.
Yeah.
Like, our Incin, we didn't really do that because Incin does serve a specific purpose on this team, and it actually combos with Golden Go, and I'll get into that like more into our Toronto recap. But like the whole thing, a really good combo with Rain is usually Peli protects. Arch has to attack because it's AV, so we knock off AV and Shadow Ball, and it's a roll to KO on a lot of bulky ones, but the faster ones always get KO'd by it. We'll go over that later, but I do really want to like hone in on like Mienshao, because this is a Swiss Army knife of a Pokemon. Like, absolute, it's completely underestimated. And specifically during Sacramento, it came to a lot of game 3s because people didn't expect it. They'd lead with like Incin, and they're like, okay, I can stop Trick Room. And then I'd like pivot into Gold. Mienshao Gold is actually a really common lead for me. I can just close combat. If I can force a Terra, cool. That's fine. I just forced a Terra on something with Mienshao. It really does force a lot of Terras, especially on on Incin. Like, if it's Terra Ghost, okay, cool. Now you're Terra Ghost. Now I can just headlong rush you and be fine. But yeah, it's like Mienshao provides so much support while only being an attacker with like Wide Guard, with the exception of that. But the Stellar boost really, really helps it. And during this tournament, knocking off a lot of items was like absolutely crucial. Like, that was my Sun matchup into like versions of Marco Silva Sun with either like Lilycole or Pluffzard. Knockoff was a very important item on Mienshao. Same with Ice Spinner, because I could not get rid of I absolutely could not get rid of that Jump Pluff for the life of me if it wasn't for that. But like, this team kind of carried me in that sense. Like, I think 8-3 is a decent finish for this team. A lot of people started falling off of P2 Ursa at this time and were shifting more into the Torviv Rain version of it with like Scale Shot D-Knight, like obviously Ursaluna but faster. No P2, but Sinistra, so that counts. And then like Peliarch, and then a 6th. Usually redirect. But this team does have a really hard matchup into that. But I didn't care. I knew my lines. I created them probably a week before, and then just grinded out these really hard matchups with all of our friends, and went from there.
Yeah, I think, and again, what you kind of, especially talk about Mienshao, you kind of hit on two notes that we've talked about in this format. a mix of knowing your lines and having your like knowing your team better than your opponent, but also still having that surprise factor. Like, people don't know their Mienshao calcs. Like, again, it's EUIC. The only Mienshao to day 2 is June's. I believe that both in Sacramento, I believe you were the only Mienshao to cut, and of course, you were the only Mienshao to cut in Toronto. It was actually funny. Usually for the Littleroot Lessons episodes, after we go through the top 8, we call it Carter's Corner, because Carter doesn't like good Pokemon. Carter only likes bad ones.
Yeah.
And we'll find the crazy teams. Like, I still remember, I think it was the event after that, like, Articuno team won special event.
Snow.
And then the next event, Carter's like scrolling through, he's like, huh, there's a Pikachu who finished better than the best Articuno.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So when everyone's like,
so
yeah,
we're doing this now.
So when everyone's like, Articuno's not real, and then you see a Pikachu better than him, like, yeah, no, Articuno's not real. Tio's just good.
Yeah,
He's specific, like, not knowing that you were one of my friends, or not, like, didn't recognize your last name. He was like, yeah, I wanted to talk about the Mienshao because I haven't seen that. Why is that popping up? And I'm like, buddy.
Nobody knows. They don't know.
I'm like, you're talking to a member of the group that has been, like, the only people sick enough to play this Pokemon.
Oh, yeah. No, like, sick in the head, but, like, sick in the head enough to know what it does.
Yes. And that is, like, the thing where if you are going to use, and you did an amazing job explaining, like, why all of the tools that Mienshao does, when people bring a Pokemon like that, or just a Pokemon that isn't of the norm, like, you can do this, and even in, like, a format like we're coming up into Regulation G, you can do this in Regulation G. You can figure out, like, your quirky Pokemon to use. You just need to understand what you're doing with that Pokemon and why you're using it, what the role is. And it seems like you guys had a really, really amazing idea, and clearly in all the results in practice, like, what Mienshao was going to do. And what did it do in Toronto?
I'm not gonna lie to you, Angelo.
Didn't come in Toronto?
No. It came to, like, half my sets and won me all of the sets that it came to.
Let's go!
Like, I'm not kidding when I say this. The volatility that this Pokemon has is insane. It's like, I don't know what happened, but every set that it came to, which was like 4 of the 8, wiped. Like, it did so much. And I'm just like, I'm thinking, I'll be honest with you, Angelo. I did not play a single best of 3 between Sacramento and Toronto.
I know.
But that was more so of the fact that I knew my team, and I was like, I really don't feel like I have to adjust. And yes, there have been some meta developments, but I really don't feel like there's a lot. A lot that I need to worry about, at least. So, like, everything stayed the same. But,
yeah, and this was, if we're talking about runs, I have the... Give me a second, I want to make this a little smaller so I can fit the whole thing in. Let me just zoom out. I have the Lab Mouse open. The only players that you went up against that did not day 2 were your round 1, your round 2, and round 5 opponents. Round 5 being Liam McDonald, one of our locals. Liam was the number 153. So yeah. So it's like, yeah, like Liam didn't top cut, but, you know, was literally the best player. I mean, day 2 was literally the best player there, not to day 2.
Oh yeah, they absolutely kicked my ass.
The last time I played Liam, it was not fun. They used an acid spray, Iron Moth next to a Miraidon, and
that sounds very Liam.
Was not fun. Don't recommend. Coming back to Reg G, we'll have to do this now. again,
God,
but we'll
dude.
get back to that. But like going through this, Cedric Bernier, Jeremy Parsons, Giovanni Costa, Shiliang Tang, Marcus Dion, Benny Vasquez. Like it literally took you going up against Justin Tang to finally get a loss. How did it feel to be literally going up against? Honestly, if you told me that this was your run, specifically rounds 6 through 13, like up against Luca, if you told me, oh yeah, like this is just Anthony's Worlds run, I'd believe it because all of these players are Worlds qualifying caliber players. How like out of these matches, like okay, at what moment, which matchup out of this for day one, which matchup out of the 8 is the one where you were like, yeah, this is the weekend?
I gotta be honest. I'll be very real. Liam was one of my harder matchups this entire weekend. And, like, special shout out to them. They kicked my ass. Love Liam, the GOAT. I was getting DMs round 3 against Cedric. Had a very good team. Made some incredible plays to beat them, and I would not have beaten them without those plays. And then I see Jeremy Parson. I'm like, okay, that's annoying, but like we'll roll with it. And then I see the Liam team kill, and then I go up against Geo. And I'm like, okay, I'm 5-0. Like, this is getting annoying at this point. Like, I have a decent matchup because I know what to do. Like, I won 2-0, but like, this is still really annoying. And then I see Shiliang. And shout out to Shiliang, if you ever see this, like, thank you for conversing with me. Wonderful, wonderful opponent. Absolutely incredible player. There was no matchup into Shiliang and Justin's team. And I walk up to Calvin, I'm like, I don't know how I won that, but my win con was, hey, don't let them get Aurora Veil and Nasty Plot up in the same turn or you lose automatically. And that was it. And I had to find that win con with Shiliang, and it took, like, Justin taking me to game 3 to, like, actually get around that, because I could not stop it with Justin's adaptations. But it wasn't even me getting annoyed. It was me getting, like, more fired up, because I was like, holy shit, I get to finally face these players that I've been waiting so long to play, because I see them, and I know they're good. And I want to fight them so I can prove, not only to myself, like, I think I'm a good player. I know I'm a good player. I shoot the shit with Groudon every day. But, like, but I know these players are good. Like, I want to prove myself, and I want to beat these players. And that's what happened. I was one of three 8-0s that finished Swiss day 1.
And you were the number 1 seed.
Yes.
Going into day 2. And then, of course, you do lose to Tang, but you beat Benny. Benny finishing in, I believe, 5th or 6th place. Benny finished top 8.
Yes.
And then you did knock out Austin Choi. But with that win of Benny, 9 rounds, and you're already in top cut. A lot more efficient than getting top cut in Louisville.
Oh, like, yeah. This was surreal. What
did it feel like going into round 10, just knowing that your ticket's already punched and you're just playing with house money?
It was odd. Because I had this, like, unnerving sense of peace throughout the entire day 1 of Swiss. Like, yeah, I was stressed. Like, I usually clench my jaw when I think. And I'm like, okay, I know they're a good player. Like, this is going to be a hellhole to, like, fight any of these players. Seeing Benny as my day 1, it was either Benny or Noah Gardner. Going up against Benny is poetic, because I don't know if you saw this as well. Benny was my winning in for day 2 at Sacramento.
Okay.
And Benny is an incredible player. And I wouldn't have beaten Benny if I didn't have Clear Smog on my Amoonguss. Back in Sacramento, but I didn't anymore. And Benny, like, upgraded their team. And I'm like, wow, Life Orb Ninetales with Encore, Ghost Taunt Redirect Magmar, I think it was Sash Sneasler, Scarf Basculegion. It's like everything, absolutely everything to get around my team. And it was tough.
Sash Sneasler.
Yeah. That Sash Sneasler made it so hard. Like, Benny is an incredible opponent, and it was absolutely poetic that I went up against them in day 1, or in day 2, like, round 1. Because we're both just sitting there, and, like, Benny was an incredible opponent at Sacramento not even 3 weeks ago. And I barely beat them. Like, we made friends, like, hey, you're really good. Like, let's do best of 3s sometime. And now we're sitting across from each other at this table.
That's not what you two meant when you said let's do best of 3s.
No, yeah, we did not want to do that at the 8-0 table. And we were like, how did we get here? Because the only other people that are sitting next to us, we're at table 1. Like, we're at the top of this, like, food chain hierarchy. We're like, oh my god, like, what happened? And it's like, Benny had an incredible comeback. Like, they went 5-3 at Sacramento, just missing day 2, to 8-0 into top 8 at Toronto. And it's like, Benny is incredible. I have such a hard time facing Benny. And now we're, like, it's round 1, day 2 of Swiss. And I'm looking at Arcanine 20 minutes before, because teams get posted. I was originally supposed to do lines with Keon the night before, and Pokedata didn't update anything. I was like, alright, that's really annoying because they're usually up after day 1, but it just didn't happen. But once I beat Benny, I was like, oh my god, I'm the only 9-0 in this tournament.
Yep, you were the first person to cut.
Yeah, full of, like, Worlds competitors, consistent Worlds competitors. It was this weird feeling where I was just like, wow, this is nuts. And I sit down, I'm, like, listening to my music, I'm alone. Like, my friends aren't at the venue yet, everyone else is still in their games. And I'm just sitting down, I'm like, is this, like, could I win a regional? Like, it was this weird feeling where I was like, oh my god, like, I have this unnerving sense of peace, where I'm like, I know I'm playing good. It felt like constant flow state throughout the entire weekend. It's like Aang getting the rock in his back. He's like entering the avatar state, and he's like, okay, I understand it now. And it's like, all these people are coming up to me like, how are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm playing good. I know I'm playing good. I'm making the right calls. I had to make so many reads against Benny to get momentum, and he still almost beat me in day 2. Like, it was 2-0, but each game was close. Like, I had to knock off Magmar as soon as possible. But, it's like, it felt surreal going up against Justin, because Justin was like, dude, like, you're going crazy. And I was like, personally, I have not gotten a lot of praise from, like, top players, consistent top players in, like, a long time. And it felt weird, because I was like, I've been doing this for 13 years. And it's like, in the hardest season, in one of the hardest regulations, with another upcoming hard regulation, I'm getting the praise that I wanted, and that I feel like I needed to prove to myself that I can do this. And it's like, my parents are like, oh, like, you can do that. You're so good. Like, my dad would know. He's a retired VGC player. And it's like, it's still so hard. Incredibly hard to actually get over that bump and say, I can do this. And I feel like I've crossed through that brick wall that I've originally had and be like, okay, I can do this. Because I lost to Justin Tang, but I brought him to game 3. That's fine by me. Like, I didn't realize that Justin had the same team as Shiliong.
They built it together too, so I wouldn't be shocked if it was a situation where Shiliong was like, hey, this was my loss today, and Justin had an idea on how to play you.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened too. And it's like, I know Shiliong and Justin actually talked about it, because Justin and I were talking about it afterwards, and it was like, oh yeah, like we actually like formed these lines after like you beat Shiliang yesterday. And it's like, it's weird because I'm like
You're like, wait a second, the Tangs are making lines against me?
Yeah, and it's like,
little old me?
Yeah, it's so surreal because I'm like, this is weird. This is a weird feeling. I don't know what to think right now. And Justin and I were shooting the shit. I was like, hey, I think we're both guaranteed cut at this point. Like, you're 9-1, I'm 9-1 now. And I was like, you think I could get in at like 9-2 if I bomb my next like round? And I show him my res. He's like, yeah, I think you're fine.
Yeah, so again, like, especially after that win with Austin Choi, you went into Top Cut again as the 1 seed. I believe you had 4 percentage points better than the next player that made Top Cut. Like, you not only did you cut and go with the 1 seed, but like you were firmly in the driver's seat leading up to things. You get the bye and you're up against Luca Trega, and sadly your run ends there. But with 9th place, this is again, to my knowledge, your best finish ever.
Yes, it's like I believe back in like seniors, like 2016, like I was constantly competing with Luca, not in like actual best of 3s, but like placements wise, because I think I made like top 16 Marlboro, and he was like 1 place or 2 places above me, and I was like, oh damn, like I know Luca's a really good player, and my friends were like helping me figure out lines into Luca, because he just had such a positive matchup. I couldn't catch up pretty much, and I brought game 2 really close. I know Luca's an amazing player. He just had so many tools to maneuver around like P2 and pretty much the entire team, actually. Like, I brought Mienshao to both games. Like, I couldn't really do anything because Luca just had like a firm grasp on the matchup, and we were talking about it after. He's like, yeah, as soon as like I saw there was no earthquake, I knew like it was fine. And it's like, I think it was like Sash. It was either Sash or Goggles Annihilate with Taunt, and I was like, ugh, like this is terrible. I can't do this.
Yeah, so he had again, I can pull it up. I do like he did have Sash. He did have Sash. It was a Sash ape with Final Gambit, no Taunt.
Yeah, it's like that. Jeez, shout out Boy Wonder at at that Pawtucket local like last week. Zach Weed, he really showed me that I do not have a good matchup into Sash Final Gambit Taunt Ape. Like, that thing is disgusting, and it's a monster.
Yeah. No, it's the Annihilate evolution of being next, because like we have Annihilapes in cut, we have in top 8, we have a maushold in top 8, but the Annihilape's not next to the maushold. The best friends aren't with each other. And I think it's just an evolution that people are figuring out, specifically in this format with that Pokemon and Annihilate. Like, oh yeah, this is not just a self-target, beat up, bulk up, set up bot. Like, there's so many other things the Pokemon can do. Which is one of the really great things, even in a format like in the last event, while you were fully settled and rightfully so on a team, that people were still trying to make some pushes to really take the format over the top. So with that being said, as of today, you are currently 59th in points. If you exclude the 2 players ahead of you who auto qualified, you are currently 57th. You have about like a 50ish point lead on 78th place, which is the threshold right now.
Yeah, it's a little scary. It's like I have to keep going. Like,
you do.
Granted, I don't have 2 cup finishes yet. I'm like wiped on GC finishes too. I don't have any IC finishes, and like the who's the Grand Challenge? I don't know them. They're gross. But like, I just need to keep going. That's it. The grind doesn't stop, baby. I just need a break because I'm tired.
It absolutely doesn't. But you're right. It's the holidays. We're taking a break. Especially if you're going to not run Groudon because you want to take this seriously.
Surely, right?
One of my I have two questions for you. What place do you think you're like realistically? What place do you think you finish in?
If I had to be honest, put me in a safe 67.
Yep, you're going to do it. I believe, and you're saying this on the pod.
I'll say this on the pod.
Yeah, and so everyone in the internet on the world is going to hold you accountable for at least finishing 67th.
That works. At least 67th.
At least 67th.
I 67th. I want to say max. Minimum. Give me 45th.
45th. Okay.
I'll take that.
Okay, we're doing this.
That give me that, but 67th is also appreciated.
Okay. And our last question before we do our shout outs. This is something I ask every single one of our guests on the pod. What is your favorite thing to cook?
That's a good question. I'm a really bad cook, and I'm kind of a fraud. Ooh. Eggs is so basic, dude. I can't say that. I like baking with my girlfriend.
Okay, that's huge. What's your favorite thing to bake?
She doesn't let me do it a lot, but
oh no, my wife doesn't let me bake either. I get kicked.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so no.
Yeah, I get kicked out of the kitchen as well. Okay,
exactly.
Cool. That works. So like
so you need to learn how to cook the perfect balance. So I always I cook all the meals for us. I do everything, and I'm very much my father's son in the sense of I cannot cook with another person in the kitchen. One of my friends from college is the only person that I can like cook with. So usually Amanda just leaves, and then when she's baking, it's the exact same thing. She's in her zone, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit in the office for an hour.
Oh yeah,
just
let me know
what you need,
baby. That's how it is. Oh man, I gotta be honest. Like homemade chocolate chip cookies.
Okay.
Banger.
Absolutely.
You can never go wrong with those.
Never.
And even if you burn them, okay, cool. You have burnt chocolate chip homemade cookies, not like burnt Chips Ahoy you can get at Walmart in the clearance bin. Like this is fine. I'm still gonna eat this. And if
dunk
you
it
don't,
in milk.
Yeah. Like, you ever heard of some liquid? Just dunk it in milk. Like, now it tastes like milk and cookies. That's not wrong in any universe. But yeah, that's what I like baking with my girlfriend. Even though she doesn't like me in the kitchen.
So, any shout-outs before we sign off?
Oh, man. I have to give it to June and Keon. Like, I've been pushed to my absolute utmost limits with this team, and like I broke through them. Like plain and simple. I've never been this high in championship points ever throughout my entire VGC career, and I got it in 3 months. Like discluding or not counting like the Terapagos and Groudon challenge finishes. Those were like 30 points, 45 points, however many I got. Like. They still count, yeah, because I'd probably be like 75th right now if I didn't. But I still got like 470 something points from like all these regionals combined. It's like I have like a master spreadsheet of like all these finishes, and I think it adds up to somewhere around like the high 400s, early 500s. But I gotta give it to June and Keon. Obviously Ashley. All of our locals, like New England locals, I had so much love in Toronto. Like pouring out for me, even though they didn't show me on stream. No notable matches though. I went against like 7, 8, 9 different world competitors.
Players who top cut. Just,
they just hate New Englanders. I guess you can just say it louder. TCPI, come on.
No regionals, no streams.
Exactly.
Absolute bull.
Like, show me a notable match at least. Like, I'm going up against Shiliang. I'm going up against Justin. I'm going up against Gio and Jeremy Parsons and Cedric Bernier. Like, come on, guys. I do want to give a shout out to Gabby, Gabby and Stefan, who put in a good word for me over at TCPI. Gabby on stream was like, "Oh my god, Anthony's like 8-0. I know him. He's a local." I do really appreciate that. And then Stefan put in a good word for me. Obviously, Chalky, the GOAT, TO. I have so many people to thank. Like, people have been put, like, constant pressure from people, like, pushing me to my limits to the point where I'm like, okay, I can surpass these and actually do good. Like, this will be my penultimate. And, like, fittingly enough, the Toronto team's Pokepaste was named my final dance, because I'm probably not using the team for a while, to say the least. But yeah, like, shout out all of New England, shout out VGC Cats, shout out my girlfriend, and shout out my parents for, like, constantly supporting me, because my dad's a retired VGC player now, and it's like, he knows how hard it is, and it's only gotten harder with this skill ceiling.
No, it really has, and we're all very, very proud of you. And if you'd like to hear some of the people who were mentioned on this, June Lintner, Pengi, Stefan, we have Chalky. All of those interviews are done. All have already happened on the Littleroot Record. You can find them in our YouTube page, which is right where you're watching this, the Littleroot Lessons YouTube, along with all of our other great content. We have the third part of the Genlock up with Carter. We have our weekly podcast episodes, of course, the rotating cast of the Littleroot Lessons family. And if you want to hit us up on the socials, we are now fully converted to Blue Sky at Littleroot Lessons. And of course, you can find me at Rose Tinted Cheeks on Blue Sky as well. Anthony, where can they find you on the socials?
Unfortunately, Twitter. I'm sorry. Like, I hate Twitter. Twitter stinks.
It does.
Like,
I still use it too. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm sorry for everyone listening. You should not like Twitter, but that's where you can find me. At Ares VGC, ARES VGC. Same with YouTube. Twitch is ARESL0. Yeah, sorry.
Something
I'm
like
really
that?
bad at I'm bad at naming things. I'll probably be streaming a team report later this week. I do have an interview with Clover Bells tomorrow, but later this week I might have a little team talk prep going up. But yeah, other than that, I think that's about it.
Yeah, and so again, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to following you through the rest of the season, especially with your season hopefully concluding in Anaheim next August.
Hopefully so. That's
always
the goal.
Yep. So as always, everyone, Anthony, thank you for joining me, and listeners, thank you for tuning in. And depending on when this posts, happy holidays.